There we go. Hey everybody, how you guys doing? Sorry about that slow start there. Had some problems with my audio. Sorry about that, but we are starting almost on time. I guess that was like 1 minute of just silence in the beginning. Sorry. Um, my name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? And today we are talking about the conservatives' most favoriteest thing in the entire world. That is fake news. That is our subject for today. Got a couple of things that I want to go over, but before we start, let's take a look at what we're working on. So this is our evil, hideous demon guy that we're starting to color. You know, I'm not so sure I like the mouth here. It's a little funky, don't you think? I don't know. I think I'm gonna take some time and maybe erase all of those tentacles because they kind of look like shit. And maybe we'll put like a better looking neck and mouth there, right? So let's do that today. So anyway, talking about, let's see, what we need is we need a brush here, and then we need to make it big. We need to erase, and we need to make that pretty big. Okay. So we are talking about pony throat. How you doing? No, no, my little pony vor, not today. Sorry, bro. Whoa, why is that all smeary? I don't want to smear, damn it. I want to just. No, 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 no. I want to. Oh, okay, because I'm using the wrong thing. That's why. I need to go to this thing. See, I'm still. I'll get used to this program eventually. I'm just like still learning how to use this shit. Okay, turn that on. There we go. Just want to erase some of this stuff because, yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling the weird tentacle mouth thing. Didn't really turn out the way I wanted, so we're just gonna 86 all this and then work on it some more. In the meantime, let's just hide that. You know what I'm gonna do? Let's copy, in case this doesn't work out, let's just copy this layer. How do I copy a layer? Copy, copy, copy. There we go. And then let's paste it. Paste layer. Okay, then let's hide it. And now that way, if we don't like it, we can go back to where we were. So, um, fake news, right? There are a couple of stories in the news right now that I think warrant some attention. First one being this Spygate story, which is all over conservative media right now. So you may be wondering, what the hell even is this? If you don't watch conservative media, if you're a sane person, right? If you don't pay attention to the wackaloons on Twitter, that kind of thing, you may not have heard of the of Spygate. And if you haven't, then, I'm very happy for you because it is ridiculous and stupid, and I'm sorry to introduce it to you. Spygate is essentially Obamagate 2.0. That's pretty much exactly what it is, right? And what's going on is that way back in 20, I think it was 2017 or 2018, um, William Barr appointed a guy named John Durham as a special prosecutor, right? And his job was to investigate the Russia investigation against Trump and essentially to just clear Trump's name. That's what he really was there for. But the idea was that, because it was all a witch hunt and blah, 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 all of that shit. So Trump wanted to do this investigation to see if there was any laws broken, because Donald Trump is a giant crybaby and is not, above using his power in order to gain, revenge, right? So that's basically it. He was basically John Durham. His name is John Durham. The special prosecutor was put in there so that Donald Trump could get revenge on the people who investigated him for the Russia investigation, right? And as such, John Durham's job, John Durham, I will pronounce his name right. His job is to basically just sort of make Trump look good and to make the people who started the investigation against him look bad, right? Now, admittedly, not very much came out of Russia, the Russia investigation, when it comes to actual crimes that could be pinned on Donald Trump. Many other people were investigated and arrested, and a few people went to actual jail. Most of them got essentially just slaps on the wrist. What was his name? Papadopoulos. A couple other people. Roger Stone was, pardoned over this, right? That kind of thing. Pretty much they all got away with it. But, there was some impropriety. They weren't able to prove that Donald Trump was taking his marching orders from Putin, but there was some violations of some laws, mainly people on the Trump side who just kept forgetting to disclose their contacts with Russians in the Russian government, high-placed operatives in the Russian government. These are things that you have to disclose, especially if you're going to be working in the White House, right? For a presidential candidate or something like that. These are all things that, so there was some actual wrongdoing uncovered by the Russia thing, but it wasn't the super mega scandal that we all were led to believe that it may turn into. I mean, for Donald Trump, for any other president, it would have been career ending. For Donald Trump, no, it's just, Donald Trump can basically get away with anything. So yeah, it didn't do shit to Trump really because Trump can basically like rape a baby on live TV and get away with it and shit. So anyway, but that's what John Durham's job was. And the problem is that he really couldn't find any evidence that this investigation was unwarranted, right? There was no evidence that said, "Oh, this is all a witch hunt." That the Democrats were making stuff up. That the things in the Trump dossier, which admittedly, most of it turned out to be BS, but there actually were a couple of things that were true in there. But it wasn't launched by it wasn't crap that was made up by the Hillary campaign or any crap like that. Stuff like that, and especially when it comes to evidence of wrongdoing. Couldn't find any of that. So what happened to spurn all of this hubbub, right? Because this is literally all over conservative news, right? The special prosecutor, Durham, made a court filing, right? And he said in this court filing that a person known as Tech Executive 1 used his access to the White House DNS servers um, to see which servers they were communicating with in order to compile negative information about Donald Trump. That's what he put, right? And this has caused, the Trump people to just lose their fucking minds. And, they've kind of taken that story and ran with it. And it's sort of evolved into this, they've added to it, lots of untruths and things like that. And they're losing their freaking minds over it. And everybody else in the media, on, media that doesn't lie to you, that is, has kind of, exposed this for what it is, which is basically bullshit. What's the word that the media likes to use is nothing burger, right? Which is like, I don't know, I don't really like that term, but, let's say what it is. It's bullshit, right? Okay, let's see here. Let's make this size 3. Can I just? Okay, there we go. So, yeah, right. So here's the thing about that. So the person, Tech Executive 1, his name is Rodney Joff, right? And he worked for a company. Um, excuse me. He worked for a firm that was hired by the government in order to. Oh shit, that's the wrong color. Wait a minute. Oh, I have to go back to my. God damn it. See, this is why. All right. There we go. Black. Much better. Okay. He worked for a security firm that was basically hired by the government in order to um, monitor traffic going in and out of the White House. Right. And the reason why was because recently at that time, 2015, the DNC was the subject of a pretty big Russian cyber attack, which, if you guys remember, resulted in dropping like a ton of basically DNC emails and a lot of them having to do with the Hillary Clinton campaign, right? These were, it was the Guccifer 2.0, right? You guys remember that? And basically they were the victim of a huge hack, and these emails were released and used to, screw up Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, like she needed any help screwing it up, right? So, so the government says, okay, well, we're going to make sure that, we don't know what else has been compromised. So they hire this security firm to say, hey, keep an eye on the traffic between the White House and see where it goes and see if there's any evidence of hacking involved, right? Perfectly reasonable request, right? And that's the kind of thing that happens all the time when you're a security firm, right? And this is what they've turned into. This is basically what the Republicans now have turned into, this huge giant wannabe, you know, phony baloney hacking scandal, right? Problem is that this began in 2016, right? Well, Donald Trump was not president in 2016, right? Donald Trump was still a candidate in 2016. So this was basically monitoring the traffic during the Obama White House, right? During the Obama administration. Okay. So that's the first thing about it, is that it wasn't spying on Donald Trump. Okay. This was a legit thing. These guys were hired by the government in order to basically ensure that the White House wasn't hacked, it wasn't, security compromised, anything like that, right? And started even before Trump became president. So it wasn't them spying on Donald Trump. It wasn't the Hillary Clinton campaign, right, spying on Donald Trump or anything like that. That portion of that is completely untrue, right? Punny Throat, if you think that there is any mainstream media outlet out there that does not lie, you need to replace the captain of your brain ship because he is drunk at the wheel. Yes, this is true. This is definitely true. Lots of media, in general, the mainstream media, they have their agenda, right? Which is usually corporate, right? That's usually the agenda of the mainstream media is corporatism. All right, we'll get into that a little bit later if you want. But during this particular story, though, it one side is definitely lying way more than the other, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. You know. So anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so that's what this is what the background of this is, right? These guys were hired by the government to ensure that the White House hadn't been hacked, right? Because hackers had recently attacked the DNC and released a bunch of emails and embarrassed them, right? So that was the whole point of this. And this predates Donald Trump's presidency. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing, you can go, okay, well, maybe it continued on while Donald Trump was president, right? Well, in the court filing that Mr. Durham, dropped, he doesn't actually say that any of this monitoring continued during the Trump presidency. Doesn't actually say that in there, right? So you can't just assume that it did. You have to mention that in the court filing. If you're, because what it is that he's actually indicted someone, which we'll get to in a little bit. And these are details that, in order to make your indictment, you have to actually mention these things. So if it happened during the Trump years, he would have to put that in there. And don't you think he would, if his job is to make Donald Trump look like a victim? His job is to, let's not forget, this guy's job is to say that the Russia investigation was, planted and it was all political and blah 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 blah. It was to basically vindicate Donald Trump because Donald Trump is a giant fucking baby, right? Let's see. I got to think about how I want this to look. Damn. He needs more. Well, fuck. Okay, you know what? I think we need to just come into here and we need to like erase his top jaw too. It's just not happening, man. Sorry. I like that. I like the way that the jaw came out, but it's just not gonna fit here. We're gonna have to redo a little bit of this dude's face, you know, which is too bad because I hate to erase it because it was actually looking pretty good, but it's just not gonna work with the bottom half here. Anyway, let's see, where were we? Okay, right. So yeah, if it did, if there was any actual, spying, right, monitoring of White House traffic under the Trump years, he would have every motive in order to actually list that in his court filing, but he didn't. He didn't do that, right? So we can't assume shit that this guy, we can't assume things that he didn't actually write. So that's the first thing. So there's no actual proof or evidence, right? And the special prosecutor hasn't even said that Trump was spied on. So keep that in mind, right? So every time you hear in on Fox and on OANN and all these other places saying that the Trump people were spied on, that's a lie. They inserted that. They made that up. That is not in the court filing, right? That is not part of the every time you hear them say that they were, that hackers from the DNC or the Hillary campaign or whatever have, invaded and spied on Trump and all that shit, that is also a lie. There is nothing in there that says that the White House was hacked when Trump was president or that they hacked the Trump campaign or anything like that at all. That's all lies, right? Lots and lots of misinformation going here, right? Now, here's the thing about that. Now, what were they actually doing? Okay, because if you're not a computer savvy person out there, then you might not really understand. You know what I mean? And it might not make a lot of sense. And most people out there don't really know how the internet works, right? So it's easy to just say, oh, they got hacked, and then people don't question it. Well, this is what this security firm was actually doing. They were monitoring traffic between servers, right? So they were looking at the DNS servers, right, for the White House, right? Monitoring who was connecting to them. So DNS servers are the sort of what they do is they translate your web address into a URL so that it can be remembered. So every website has an address, like a web address, similar to like an IP address, right, for a computer, kind of sort of, not exactly the same thing, but and it'll be a series of numbers, right? And it'll say something like 128.186.55, something like that. It'll just be the string of numbers, and that's what this is, the address of where your website lives, right? A DNS server takes that and basically pairs it with a URL. So, like, say you go out and you buy, like, um, cheesenugget.com or something, and you have a website about like which restaurant does the best cheese nuggets in the world or whatever, right? And you have cheesenugget.com, then you have to set your DNS servers to, basically point that URL to your website. So when people type in cheesenugget.com, it goes to your website. Essentially, I mean, I'm not a supercomputer hacker, smarty, fucking, um, you know what I mean? I'm not like a network administrator or any shit like that, but that's my basically layman's understanding of it, of how it works, right? So, oh hey, you do as I listen to the stream, I do 3D modeling a stockade, so both of us are doing art right now. Hey, right on, man. Cool. Well, I'm glad that I'm helping you with your artistic endeavors there, man. I'd love to see some of it sometime. So anyway, that's what DNS servers do, right? They point your they make it so that you can just type in a URL and go to a website, right? And what they were doing is they were monitoring traffic using these DNS servers to basically see if they were connecting, if anybody was connecting to them, right? Um, and for the White House, right? And the thing is that they were not looking at the content of the packets, right? So when you send data over the internet, they're basically called packets. They break up the data into little chunks, essentially, right? and it gets sent out, and then the other computer on the other end basically takes the packets and rearranges them into a website or whatever, right? Or whatever server, whatever data that goes through the server. It doesn't have to be a website. It can be whatever, spreadsheet, something like that, right? And so they were basically monitoring where were these packets going, like who connected to the server, right? Who made a request, and they got packets, and then they didn't actually, to my knowledge, it doesn't look like they actually collected or examined any of the data inside of the packets. It doesn't look like they actually did that, right? So let's see here. What did I do this? I don't know why I did that. So yeah, this is basically what's going on. And then they saw that, wait, what is this? Oh, okay. Oh, I can do that. Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, that's not what I want to do now, but I'll have to keep that for the future. Okay, that's awesome. So anyway, um, that's what this was, right? To make sure that there wasn't hackers connecting to the servers, essentially, right? Now, the thing is that, there has been an indictment over this, and the person that got indictment was the person who got indicted. His name was Michael Sussman, right? And he was indicted for supposedly lying to the FBI as part of this investigation, right? And it wasn't directly, basically, it was part of the investigation, but it had nothing to do with this traffic monitoring, right? The reason that this guy got indicted, right, was because of supposedly lying to the FBI. Well, why? What did he lie about, right? Well, what they're saying is that Michael Sussman lied about working for the firm that um, tech executive number one worked for, right? So tech executive number one, his name was Rodney Joff, and he was the guy that was hired in order to do this, this packet, monitoring, essentially, right? Now, the guy Michael Sussman doesn't exactly have much to do with the actual monitoring. What he did is that he came and left a tip, right? So if you remember way back, right before the election, a story came out about how there was a Trump server that was connecting to a it was basically being pinged by a server that was owned by Alpha Bank, right? Alpha Bank is a bank that is basically operates out of Russia. And I remember this too, and nothing ever happened with it, right? And basically, it really wasn't, there was no crime going on. What happened is that the server wasn't owned by the Trump people. It was just their connection to the Trump people is that this server was hosting ads that would be played on Trump's website, right? So that's really the only connection. So they didn't even own this server and had nothing to do with Trump whatsoever. So this was not, a crime, right? But I mean, it's not a crime to report something you think is suspicious, right? I mean, they thought it was suspicious and it got reported, and the FBI investigated and there was no crime being committed and everything was cool, right? And so now this guy, John Durham, the special prosecutor, is trying to basically get this dude arrested, and put this guy in jail, you know, and it's not going to go anywhere, right? But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe the dude committed maybe he like committed, like maybe they'll get him on a technicality or some shit. But that's my prediction. My prediction is that Michael Sussman is not going to prison and this is going to get like laughed out of court or whatever, right? But that's what the indictment is. And this is what the right wing is losing their frickin' brains over. That's too wide. That doesn't look good at all. God damn it. That looks like shit too. Let's just, you know what it is? It's too wide. It needs to be, because like, look at it like that. See, that looks too weird and goofy looking. It needs to be more like sinister, right? Okay, okay. Erase, 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 erase. There we go. We'll get it, folks. We'll get it. Maybe I should just do like a, trying to think like what can I do here to actually I don't know if the whole teethy mouth thing is gonna even really look good, you know? Maybe we should go for something just like really let's see, default. There we go. Circle. I don't want it to be soft. Fade ratio diameter. Okay, let's try this again. Let's go for something a little more mm, let's go for something a little more like bizarre. Let's erase this. Give him more of like a okay, I think I've got an idea now. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, the only indictment in this entire thing has nothing to do with the actual supposed spying part, right? But you wouldn't know that if you were, listening to conservative media. You would think that this was the worst thing that had ever happened ever, and it was like worse than like fucking, Watergate and all that shit, right? And I want to play for you a video. Let me just go ahead and move this over here. This is a video. This is from the Mehdi Hassan show, right? And just a couple of seconds of this because he put together a pretty cool I guess you would say pretty cool little clip montage of what we saw on Fox News. So this is Fox News on let's turn on my monitor here. Let's make this smaller so that I don't get copyright strike. This is all of the Fox News shows this past Monday on the 14th talking about this, right? So here we go.
Durham's documents show that Hillary Clinton hired people who hacked into Trump's home and office computers before and during his presidency and planted evidence that he colluded with Russia.
Where to begin? This took place, or that evidence was planted.
Okay, did you hear that? Let's go to that one more time. All right. This is let's go to that one more time. Okay. So keep in mind what we just heard, and then this is what the guy just said. All right, let's see what Fox News. This is Fox News coverage of this, right? It's right at one. Hang on, I have it here. It's at 1:34. Start.
Durham's documents show that Hillary Clinton hired people who hacked into Trump's home and office computers.
That's a lie. Okay. Hillary Clinton didn't hire these people, Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, right? In 2016. Wasn't she? I mean, she hired people to hack into the White House, so she hired people to hack into the Obama White House, right? The filing says nothing about Trump's private computers at all. This guy, Jesse Waters, just threw that in there. Has nothing to do with that whatsoever, right? Has nothing. It doesn't say anything about hacking, right? In real life, it was just basically monitoring traffic. Where's the hacking part come in? See, this is like, we were just talking about this, Pony Throat, a few minutes ago when you were talking about, media outlets that lie. Oh, yeah, they all lie. Some of them lie more than others, man. Right? Seriously, what the fuck is this? Let's go on.
Before and during his presidency.
Before and during his presidency. Nope, doesn't say that at all. It doesn't say it happened during Donald Trump's presidency at all. Zero. Doesn't say it even happened to Donald Trump. Right? It was the White House. It wasn't it had nothing to do with Donald Trump whatsoever. Right? So, where's the evidence for this? This is Fox News right here. This is like what's going out to 20 million people a night. 20 million people are watching this shit right here and getting lied to. Is Fox going to, air any kind of retraction for saying things which are just blatantly not true like this? Probably not, right? There's a, wait,
and planted evidence that he colluded with Russia.
planted evidence that he colluded with, that it says nothing about that whatsoever. Okay. There is no way, I mean, that's not the only part here. There's another part where there's like a whole, let's see, here goes, here we go. Here's an entire little segment here of other hosts. Let's see what Tucker Carlson's got to say about this, right? Tucker Carlson starts right about here.
Yesterday. Let's go on, 8 p.m.
The filing says that Joffe and his computer scientists intercepted internet traffic, that is, emails and presumably text messages. This isn't a conspiracy theory.
It doesn't say that. He didn't intercept emails. He didn't, he monitored it, and none of the packets were actually examined. The data inside the packets were not examined. That's what it says inside of the filing, right? Tucker Carlson just lied. Going on.
His claims were true. Democrats were spying on Donald Trump, not just as a candidate, but as president of the United States in the White House, as well as in his own home.
Again.
Zero truth to that whatsoever. Right? That didn't happen when he was president. Nothing about him in his own home. It's like where this story is completely different. Completely different. Let's continue on to what Hannity says here. Right here. I think this is where Sean Hannity starts.
Emails. It doesn't, but 9 p.m.
The Clinton campaign paid a tech firm to infiltrate the servers at Trump Tower and then later infiltrate the servers at the Trump White House. And make no mistake, this is far worse than Watergate.
Nope.
Zero. That's complete bullshit as well. There was no there was no penetration of any servers, right? What does that even fucking mean? Penetrating a server. I mean, I'm not a hacker person. I'm not a system admin. I'm not a network admin, whatever. But I kind of know a little bit about it. I mean, how does one penetrate a server? Like, what the fuck are you talking? You mean like gain access to the data on the server? Is that, I'm assuming that's what they mean. Because when most people think hacking, they think like some shit out of the Matrix. They think that a guy sits down and waves his fucking fingers over a keyboard and then magic shit happens on the other side. And that's not what hacking is. Hacking is just basically using a computer, sometimes in ways in which it wasn't designed, but still, So I'm assuming they mean by penetration that they were able to gain access to the server and see data on the server, right? I'm assuming that's correct. That's not what happened at all. No penetration, there was no penetration of any White House servers, not when Donald Trump was president either. It doesn't say that. Once again, it's like they're just throwing shit in there. They're just making shit up, right? Let's see what Laura Ingram's got to say. I'm just going to continue because it's like 3 seconds, so let's continue.
Infiltrate does not appear in this filing anywhere. Okay, 10 p.m.
A bombshell new court filing from special counsel John Durham alleges that the Clinton campaign paid a tech company to surreptitiously monitor computer servers at Trump Tower and even in the executive office of the president.
Again, no. The filing...
No, doesn't say that at all. It's all, that's... All right, let's turn this shit off. Right? But, I will put here, I'm going to put the link to this because this is actually a really good story. Right? So if you guys want to watch that later on your own, here is the Mehdi Hassan show on that right there down in the chat for you guys. Complete and total bullshit of the highest order, right? So this is, am I the only one who's a little, yes, we know media lies. We know the mainstream media has an agenda, right? We know that they like to bend the truth. And especially when it comes to very political media like, Fox, and I guess other people would say MSNBC or whatever, we know that they like to bend the truth a lot, right? But that seems to be kind of bending it an awful, awful lot to me. That seems to be like bending it more than should be allowed. I mean, seriously, like, aren't there rules against this kind of thing? There should be. There should be rules against this kind of. There should be some kind of fucking law that says you're not allowed to just make up complete and total bullshit and still claim to be a news fucking station. I don't know, don't you think? You know, it used to be back in the day that the news would try to be objective. At least they would like try to bullshit you and tell you that they're being objective, right? Seems like they're not even doing that anymore. Seems like here it's just complete, total, like blatant horseshit, right? The thing is that if you just consume conservative media as, roughly half of the voting population out there does, you wouldn't know. Because if all you do is listen to the liars, you'll never know what the truth is, right? Every other mainstream media outlet out there is calling this out for what it is, right? But how many of these people are going to bother looking at anything else? Most people honestly don't even really watch Fox, right? Who are into conservative media, right? Most of them will get what they'll do is they'll see a headline on Facebook or something, right? Maybe get a clip that they get on Facebook or on Twitter or on, Getter or fucking Fapper or whatever fucking like rip off Twitter thing they're using or whatever right wing microblogging horseshit platform they're on now, right? And they'll just get a clip of it and fill in the rest themselves. And that's really, this is how misinformation gets around, right? This is how basically propaganda works. It doesn't really matter what they say, right? They could come out tomorrow too. That's the other thing. They can come out tomorrow and they could say, "Oh yeah, we were wrong. It was all bullshit. Sorry." And the damage is done. And now there's always going to be people for the rest of time who are going to believe that, you know, Donald Trump was spied on in the White House, right? There's going to be people now, like, I guarantee it. You could come back, you can get in a time machine, you could go 20 years in the future and then hit up, like, Facebook or Twitter in 20 years as, like, you're dodging nuclear mutants or whatever because, mankind will be almost extinct by then, but whatever. And you could come back in that time and you will still find people talking about that one time Donald Trump was spied on by the evil baby murdering, blood drinking Democrats. This is how fake news works, right? This is how conspiracy theories get started, right? That phony baloney bullshit gets passed off by, like, one person who has like a huge fucking platform and then other people pick it up and they just run with it, and it just gets folded into the conspiracy theory, right? So now I guarantee you in the next election when Donald Trump tries to run for president again and hopefully loses, fucking hope so, they're going to hear plenty of Trump supporters saying they spied on him when he was in the White House, right? It's all rigged. They're afraid of him. They spied on him when he was in the White House. They were spying on him even before he became president. Guarantee you, you're going to see this pop up. It's going to be. And, the thing about conspiracy theories is that it doesn't matter how many fucking times you debunk them, right? You can debunk it over and over and over, and you can make videos on it, and you can direct people, and you can argue with people. Go to Snopes, whatever, right? The more you try to debunk it, the more like life it takes on of its own, right? The people on Fox know this. They know this because this is basically what they do now, and they're doing this on purpose. They're doing this on purpose because the midterm elections are coming up, and they gotta like get some fucking like traction going, and they have to get people pissed off to go vote, right? So that's what it is, man. You know, this is why they're basically just lying their fucking asses off. It's really kind of disgusting. Kind of disgusting. Ah, for fuck's sake. I mean, this is why, man. This is why let's see. I got another thing here. There was actually a quote from Rudy Giuliani on this, right? Which I'm not going to look up the video on it, but basically he went on Fox News too and was being interviewed along with Kayleigh McEnany, Trump's former, spokesperson, right? I think what Secretary of Communications or whatever, right? And basically, Rudy Giuliani said that he had the evidence for this, right? I thought this was funny. Here's the exact quote from Giuliani. He said, "They may feel that it's gobbledygook, but it's gobbledygook supported by about 1,000 pieces of evidence, none of which has been revealed yet. I happen to have it in my bedroom, or my den actually. I've had it there for years, as well as the fraudulent election." Right? Which I assume he meant proof for the fraudulent election. This is actually Rudy Giuliani on Fox News yesterday, right? Said that. So it's like it's kind of it's like laughable. It's laughable, and it's first off, it's funny how they all sort of toe the line. Like somebody got up and like had a big ass meeting with all of the Republicans and said, "This is what we're going with. We're going with stolen election and spies again." Right? Which is fucking bullshit. And then secondly, it's also funny how they can just basically make shit up and no one ever challenges them on it. And the thing is, nobody has to because, all they just stay in the alternative conservative media sphere. They don't have to like go on CNN anymore. They don't have to like go before actual real reporters and be questioned and like have to like answer questions. This is stuff that in the past, they would have to do, and they would, even on Fox. Like Fox used to be actually kind of a like during the Clinton years, Fox News was actually sort of like a muckraking, like it actually had a little bit of journalistic integrity. Back in the 90s, right? Back when Clinton was president and shit. That was kind of their thing. They were like known for being like in having integrity and going after government corruption. That was Fox News's thing back in the 90s. And it wasn't until I mean, yeah, they were extremely right leaning back then, but they didn't straight out just report lies like this. So something like this never would have happened on Fox back in like 1996 or something. No, it never would have happened, right? They didn't just like straight up lie to people, you know. That didn't start happening until the enforce, right? That really didn't start happening until Bush became president, right? And then it started kind of turning into basically the state-run, the GOP, like the media arm of the GOP, I guess is how you could describe Fox nowadays, right? That's really kind of fucked up, man. And that's just perfect example. Fake ass news story, zero fucking basis in fucking reality that is being reported across not now it's not just Fox, but it's like every conservative media like news outlet and conservative like, social media and all the Fox imitators and the One American networks and the fucking Newsmaxes and all those people who are trying to like take a bite out of Fox and failing. Right? They're all jumping up and down on this story that has zero fucking basis in reality. And this is how fake news works, man. This is how propaganda spreads. It's kind of fucked up. Okay, let's see. That was my first portion there. We're actually running a little ahead of schedule. Let's read some comments, right? Let's read some comments and then we're going to talk about Joe Biden and crack pipes. So, let's see. Pony Throat, not much came out about Russia, almost like it wasn't even there. I was still waiting on the Hunter Biden investigation that will never happen. Yeah, there was a few things that came out about Russia. Mainly it seemed to be mainly just sort of like people were getting caught on technicalities, right? A couple of people did actually go to prison, or not prison, but were at least like prosecuted. But most of them seemed to just get off with like, small. I think there was like one guy who served like 2 weeks in jail or some shit like that. and then like another guy who like got no prison time, that kind of thing. So, but there were a couple of people. I think it was about like there were something like 14 arrests or so, and a few of the lower level dudes actually did go to prison for various things, but mainly it was stuff like, they like would forget to mention that they were working for a foreign government, which is against the law, you know. And the thing is, it's like, okay, well, maybe they didn't know what the law was, whatever, blah blah blah. These are people who were in the Trump campaign, who were in politics, who were going to shortly be in the White House. You would think they would know what the fucking law was, right? And being ignorant of the law does not excuse you for breaking it. It just doesn't. You can't be like, "Oh, I didn't know I wasn't allowed to run two people over with me." You know what I mean? No, 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 no. Sorry. So, yeah, it was, I mean, the thing is it wasn't the major super giant scandal that they made it out to be. They made it, cuz the and don't yeah, for sure the Democrats kind of ran with the Russia thing and tried to turn it into the scandal that broke to break Trump. And well, that's kind of their job. They're the opposition party. It's in their best interest to investigate the Trump White House for whatever thing he does wrong. And if it turned out there was nothing there, then oh well. And the thing is, it's not like Republicans don't do this either, right? I mean, look at what they did with Benghazi. You know, Benghazi, right? Which they had, hearing after hearing after hearing after hearing on Benghazi over and over and over. One of them was like 11 hours long, and it was like there's this famous picture. In fact, you know what? I'm going to dig it up. There's a picture of Hillary Clinton at one of the trials looking bored, right? Let's look up bored Hillary, right? There it is. Very famous picture of bored Hillary Clinton right here. Turn on the laptop. You've all seen this picture, right? Of Hillary right here, just looking really super bored. Right. That is her at one of these Benghazi hearings. Like fucking, you know, actually, you know what? I need to make that small again. I made it too big. All right, let's make that small and put it down here. That's her at one of these Benghazi hearings, like that they had her there testifying for like fucking 8 hours. And it was like, and did anybody ever get arrested from Benghazi? No. Right? Did Hillary Clinton go to prison? No. Did they ever prove that she did anything wrong? Nope. But what did happen? It kind of cemented into the general public that Hillary Clinton was not to be trusted. That's what Benghazi did, right? And now think about it. Think about Hillary Clinton, right? At the time that she ran for president in 2016, she was a senator for what, 6 years, I think, at that point. She was Secretary of State, right? Um, for another 6 years, right? She was the former First Lady for 8 years, right? Basically had a career in politics going back to the fucking 60s, right? If there was anybody currently alive in the government who was more qualified to be president than Hillary Clinton, I would like to meet them, right? I mean, I guess Joe Biden was, because Joe Biden was the actual vice president, right? But it's not like Hillary Clinton wasn't qualified to be president. She knew what she was doing. She probably would have been a halfway decent president. Maybe would have like, the usual kind of bullshit, like, Democrat sort of, you know, screwing the poor for the rich kind of scandals that we usually get out of Democrats, right? But I don't think there would have been anything super major happening with her, right? I mean, but it definitely, she probably was competent, you know, and she lost to a guy who was a fucking MTV, like, reality TV star with his own board game, right? Who, like, got caught, with a fucking tape of him basically saying extremely misogynist shit, right? And I always wondered, like, how did that happen? I thought at the time, like, fuck, man, like, A fucking like wooden sawhorse with like a balloon for a head and a mop for hair probably could have beat Donald Trump. That's what I thought at the time. How the fuck did Hillary Clinton lose? Right? And it was because the general public didn't trust her. Ultimately, they didn't trust Hillary Clinton, right? Democrats didn't like her, and there was no enthusiasm for her because people thought she was slimy. Ultimately they thought she was slimy. She had a reputation for being a crook and a liar, right? Whether you think that's founded or not, yeah, maybe she was. And don't get me wrong, there was lots of bad shit going on with the Clintons, especially like payola and stuff for the Clinton Foundation, that kind of thing. I'm not saying Hillary Clinton would have been the best president of all time. What I am saying is that she lost to someone that she easily should have annihilated, right? It was Trump was the long shot to begin with. And it's like, why did she lose, man? She lost because basically the Republican smear campaign worked. People didn't trust her, right? So, you know, that's what Benghazi was all about. Benghazi was about making Hillary Clinton untrustworthy, right? I mean, she was already kind of untrustworthy, but still, it was ruining her reputation, and it fucking worked, right? So this is like their job, man. This is, basically they were trying to do the same thing to Trump with the Russia thing. They were trying to basically Benghazi Trump. Not that they needed any fucking help, you know. I mean, if there's anybody, who thinks Donald Trump is honest, I got a fucking bridge to sell you. You guys can't hear that, right? That car alarm going off? Oh, thank God it stopped. Okay. Mm. Okay, let's read some more comments. Let's see. What do we got here? Dynacat, hey, what's going on? Dynacat, Hillary was not in government in 2016. She wasn't. Did she? Oh, right. So did she retire in order to run for president? That's what it was. You're correct, right? Kerry was Secretary of State. I know that she was Secretary of State for a while. Maybe what was it like for like 6 years, right? And then she stopped to run for president. Yeah, you're right. What else we got? Dynacat. The right wing lost their minds long ago. This is just what they are, hysterical, but right now. Yeah. They're basically doing it because we got midterms coming, which I'll get to in a bit. Let's see. Pony Throat, Michael Sussman looking pretty sus. Okay, Pony Throat, do these people like answering questions less than Biden at a press conference? Right. What else we got here? Dynacat, I don't know. It seems like Fox runs the GOP more than the reverse. Uh, it's kind of hard to tell at this point. I think that they are kind of joined at the hip. You know what I mean? When it comes to who's influencing who. Is it Fox News taking marching orders from the GOP, or is it the other way around? I think they're at a point to where there really is no distinction between the two. When you have the president of the United States calling your talk show hosts on a daily basis, then you are the establishment. You know what I mean? You are the GOP is Fox News at this point. Let's not forget that. I mean, Trump would call Sean Hannity like every fucking night and talk to him. You know, when you have like that direct access to power like that, you know, I mean, who's to say when the political party stops and the news organization begins? So pretty sure they're all getting on calls and like determining what their messaging is going to be for the day and stuff like that. And Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham are very much privy to all that stuff and probably have some input on it too. I'm not one of these, because there's always people that say, oh, no, they never tell us what to say or whatever, blah, 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 right? Or we never get like, orders from on high. I don't believe that shit for a second. I believe that I would bet my left nut that they get a memo telling them what they can and can't say on the air, how to frame things on the air, do not refer to Joe Biden as president ever. Refer to him as, XYZ. I bet you $1,000,000 they get that direction. You know, if they didn't, then they're not doing their jobs right. put it that way. What do we got? Dynacat. Manafort got some real time before the pardon. Flynn was going to get some time before Barr became AG. Stone was going to do some time before the pardon. Yeah, so there was, exactly. There were some people that got busted. Like, that was, yeah, Roger Stone. That's correct. He got busted for the fucking Russia thing. And yeah, most of them managed to avoid basically any jail time at all. Like you said, Manafort actually served a little bit, but that's kind of what happens when you got the president of the United States in your fucking corner, which is bullshit. Which is, it makes it even more important to nail them for any future wrongdoing, like say their involvement in the January 6th fucking insurrection, of which Paul Manafort and fucking, Michael Flynn, especially Michael Flynn and Roger Stone are all fucking like co-conspirators of. And all three of those assholes deserve to be in fucking prison for that. But we'll see what happens. They're probably going to get away with it scot-free because this is America. And no one has ever, Republicans are never held to account in America at all. Seems like they fucking get away with everything, but they're probably going to get away with that too. Let's see. Pony Throat. There are only 4 qualifications to be president. Must be over 35. Must have been born in America. Unconditional support for Israel. Must support the military-industrial complex. Well, yeah, those last 2 are kind of unofficial requirements, but, de facto requirements, right? Can't really argue with you there, man. That's true. Especially the military-industrial complex thing, That might be the reason that Joe Biden loses next time, because he allowed Afghanistan to basically end, right? By ending Afghanistan, he sort of ends the gravy train that the military contractors were enjoying for the last 20 years. So this may be one of the reasons why he ends up losing, because there's going to be a lot of establishment pushback because he kind of cut off the money flow, If I were a conspiracy theorist, I would say that would be so, but we'll see what happens in real life. I don't know. Just a suspicion, right? Anyway, where are we at? 9:30. We're probably going to get through all of our stuff before. I usually go until 10:30, but we'll see. If we get through it early, then maybe we'll end a little early because it is a school night. I got to go to work in the morning, so. But we'll see. Let's talk about some other stuff. Let's talk about crack. I myself have never done crack. I am very, very happy to say so. I have actually encountered it in real life. I had a friend that did it in my house. Didn't tell me that he had it on him. Remember, when I was a kid, my dad was a cop. That was some scary shit. Basically, the conversation went like, what the fuck is that? And then he starts smoking it. And I'm like, is that fucking crack? This is the conversation. And he's still smoking it. And then I'm like, get the fuck out of here. That's how the conversation went. That guy never came over to my house ever again. Anyway, why are we talking about crack? Right. Well, I want to show you guys something. Let me see here. What can I do? Can I make this bigger? Yep. Okay, let me just move this over here. And how can I make this bigger so that you guys can't see my thing? There we go. Have you seen this before? This is the new meme that's going around on right-wing, Twitter, right-wing social media, right? The Joe Biden crack pipe. And I'm seeing this every fucking where I go now, right? What the fuck is this? Where did it come from? Why is Joe Biden smoking crack, right? Here's another one that I saw just to kind of show you an example of how this stuff spreads around, right? Let me just move these things over here. Turn this back on. This is from the Daily Mail, right? Health and Human Services to fund handing out crack pipes to addicts for racial equity. Whoa, what is that? That kind of sounds like, okay, Biden is giving people crack to get rid of racism? What? The fuck are you talking about? Here goes a guy that commented on Twitter. I wanted to get this. I snipped this out. This was actually in a news story about this, but when you look at your check stub this week and see all those taxes taken out, remember Joe Biden's government just took food out of your children's mouth to pay for crack pipes. Kind of show you how it's spreading around. It's not just let's turn that off and let's get rid of this. It's not just, of course, crap that you see on the news. People actually will take stories like this and spread them around. So what the fuck even is this story? What the hell are we talking about here, right? Well, there is a program by the Department of Health and Human Services in order to cut down on the numbers of overdoses and the spread of diseases like HIV. These are harm reduction programs, right? And this year, the grant is about $30 million, which is going out to different states in order for them to engage in these types of harm reduction programs, right? So why, first off, $30 million is fucking nothing. When it comes to a government spending, 30 million bucks is like fly shit. It's literally the government literally spends more than $1 million on balloons every year for events. Okay, so 30 million bucks, nothing. When you have a budget of like fucking 700 billion just for like the military every year, right? When you're operating like expenditures for each year is like fucking $2 trillion, 30 million is like it's like pocket change. Right. So it really is nothing that they're actually spending. It's like incredibly small, this number, right? And what even is this? Well, it's harm reduction, like I said. Why would you want to spend money like this in such a way, right? To go help drug addicts, Why should the government spend money to help drug addicts? Well, first off, it's helping them so that they don't die. That's the first thing, right? So these people don't overdose and they don't get HIV, diseases like hepatitis and HIV and that kind of thing, right? Because, there are some people out there in the government and elsewhere who actually do kind of, value human life, right? And don't want to see people just fucking drop dead or die of diseases that can easily be prevented. That's the first thing. Second thing is, drug addicts don't just live on the moon. They live among everybody else. So they are our relatives. There are fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers, shit like that. And this is to help them. And people they're not just born drug addicts. They, get stuck in a cycle of addiction. And it can really happen to anybody, you know. And until you've had a family member that has been a drug addict, you don't really understand that, right? But it can happen to everybody. I mean, luckily me, the thing is, I myself have an addictive personality. I am, I get addicted to shit like cigarettes and food and right. I'm literally a food addict. You don't understand. Like, I can't be trusted. Like, if you have a plate of cookies, you can't leave that shit around me. I will eat every single fucking cookie, like all of them. Right? Like, you can't put things like potato chips, like, they can't be close to me. I will consume the entire fucking bag, you know, because I'm a fucking addict. I'm a food addict, dude. I mean, I know, technically we're all food addicts. If we don't eat, we have that side effect of death, but I eat compulsively, right? What can I say? I've been overweight my entire life because of that. I'm actually as of this morning, at 199, which is a little bit lower. I've actually gained a little bit of weight, but this is like the first time in my adult life that I've actually been able to maintain a weight under 200 pounds for like more than like a couple of weeks. This has been consistently for like the last 6 months. I've been under 200 pounds. I'm very proud of myself. That doesn't change the fact that I will fucking eat like every you know, if you like go get a bag of Oreos, I'll eat the entire fucking bag in like 3 days. So, but anyway, getting that's besides the point. Drug addicts, getting back to the actual story, are not, they're not just like bad people. They're just normal, ordinary people, and they deserve our help. It's addiction is a disease, and it can be treated, and it should be treated, and that's the other thing. Third thing is that these people also, when they spread disease, they don't just spread it to other addicts. They spread it to normal people. They have families and they have sex with people and shit like that. So it's like you want to keep the number of AIDS infections down because you don't want millions and millions of people dying of AIDS, then you're going to have to do things in order to prevent the spread of it. And included in that is these harm reduction programs, right? So that's why these things are important. And these programs have been around for literally decades at this point, you know, under essentially every president since Ronald Reagan. We've had some form of drug sort of rehab kind of harm reduction kind of program where they will do things like, and these programs, they're different depending on whatever state it is, right? But it'll be things like clean needles, clean needle programs. I mean, that shit started back in the 70s, right? Depending on where you live, of course, you know. And why do you do that? You do it because if people share needles, they fucking spread HIV. And you want to, so provide clean needles for people, reduce the spread of HIV, right? And it's good for everybody. It keeps it from spreading to other people. It keeps these people out of the hospital so that there's more hospital beds for things like, I don't know, a pandemic, shit like that, right? And it results in a much healthier society. And this is what we've seen in other countries where they don't treat drug addiction like a crime. For like Portugal, for example, has a very good track record. They decriminalized all drugs like this, right? So you don't go to prison for having things like heroin or cocaine or something in Portugal, right? You don't go to prison for that. They have very extensive, drug rehab type programs and that kind of thing. And they've managed to, keep the number of people in prison low for drug related crimes, right? They've managed to if you treat it like a disease and then you can actually help the people that are addicts and you can overall, reduce the type of drug related crime, right? Because it's not just people taking drugs that's the crime. It's the other shit that the people do in order to get the money to buy the drugs, which results in crime. You know what I mean? So you got drug addicts, you got heroin addicts and shit running around your city, whatever. They need money. They're going to do petty crime. They're going to do things like, breaking into cars and thievery and pickpocketing and like fucking mugging people on the street and like burglary, that kind of thing, right? All of that crime, all of those types of like related crime, all of that shit goes down when you decriminalize drugs, when you do things like harm reduction programs to help people, right? And it's like one of those things where everybody wins. And we don't want to do it in the United States because essentially conservatives think that people should be punished. And we also have a prison industrial complex that is essentially bribing politicians to keep drugs illegal. And that's part of the reason why, for example, marijuana is still a Schedule 1 drug, right? Which is like, or is it a Schedule 2 drug? It's classified as the most dangerous type of drug, right? Even though several states have already legalized the recreational use of marijuana, federally it's still classified as the most dangerous type of drug. I think it's a schedule. Is it Schedule 1? I think that's what that is, or Schedule 2. One of those two. I can't remember. I don't know. Smoke too much weed. Anyway, right. And that's why, because we have this prison industrial complex that, where where, private prisons and shit like that, basically, and even police forces as well, they profit from the drug war. They profit from putting people in jail. Police forces do as well with, civil asset forfeiture and shit like that. Basically, like, if you're ever traveling around the country, you have a large amount of cash on you, better make sure you don't get pulled over because a cop will just fucking take that from you. And then they'll claim that it's drug money. The rationale goes like this. Oh, well, you must be, carrying all this money in order to go do a drug deal, and they'll just confiscate it. And there's all these stories out there about how people are like driving around and they have like a wad of cash on them. Like some guy will go and withdraw his life savings and he'll have like 14 grand or something going out to go buy a car or whatever. Get pulled over by a cop just fucking steals it. And in order to get it back, you have to sue the police, and sometimes it costs more to sue them than what they took. And it's because these are the laws that have been drafted for the drug war. Like they were laws that were originally meant to confiscate the property of you know, property bought with drug money from drug dealers. So they would arrest a drug dealer and then take his car or something and put it up for fucking auction or whatever. And all of that shit's been twisted around, and it's like now there's even police forces that are profiting from this shit, right? That's how fucked up the drug war is in this country, right? Maybe we should do a stream all about civil asset forfeiture. It's fucking ridiculous. If you guys have never looked into it, look into it, man. It's fucking rage inducing, civil asset forfeiture. And you can't, it's one of those things where you can't fucking believe that it's like, how is this legal in the United States? It sounds like some shit that should be happening in like Pakistan or like, or whatever. Like, you ever like meet someone that comes from like one of those countries like in the Middle East, like Pakistan or even places like the Philippines, right? One thing they'll always talk about is how the government is corrupt. And in order to get anything, in order to do anything, in order to get anywhere, you have to basically fucking grease the palms of like any like corrupt ass government official that crosses your path, right? The United States is slowly turning into that, right? If we're not like it already, we're very slowly turning into one of those societies where if you have enough money to throw enough bribes your way, you can basically get whatever you want. And this is a perfect fucking civil asset forfeiture is a perfect fucking example of that. The way that the drug war basically allows the state to extract wealth from its population, right, is a perfect fucking example of what how our basically our nation is deteriorating and our society is collapsing. Right. So anyway, that's enough backstory there. So getting back to Joe Biden and the crack pipes, right? Um, there is a senator named Marsha Blackburn, Republican, who is now threatening to basically shut down the government over this program, right? They have to do these periodic spending bills, right? We don't have a budget because we haven't passed a budget in literally forever. So they keep the government open through these sort of like supplementary emergency spending bills. And this is the latest thing that the Republicans are using in order to fuck that up so that one of them can get themselves into the news. In this case, is Marsha Blackburn. I don't know if she thinks that she's going to be president one day. Maybe she's running for re-election or something, and she wants to like fucking get her name out there or something. I'm not worried about the government shutting down over it, but it is kind of telling that this, little tiny $30 million program, which is literally pennies compared to the entire budget, is holding up passing a spending bill, which will keep the government open. Right. So, yeah, that just kind of demonstrates that it's being used for political purposes. Okay. Now these, the right wing has kind of like gone nuts over this program, basically saying that it's, the government paying people to smoke crack, essentially. That kind of thing, right? I mean, you saw the Facebook thing that I put up there, the comment by whoever the fuck that person was. You know, that's not necessarily true. The grant doesn't actually pay for anything. The grant goes to harm reduction programs in other states. Now, it may go to, so So the actual grant itself doesn't say that it provides crack pipes, right? But it does allow for what's called safe smoking kits, which what it is there's a little rubber nub that you're supposed to put over the end of the pipe, right? So what happens, right, is that, crack addicts will often drop their pipe and shit, and it'll break the tip, right? And then, so they share the pipe with somebody, and it cuts their lips, right? Especially when they're fucking blitzed out of their mind on crack, don't really feel pain, that kind of thing. So their lips get all fucked up, right? And it can spread things like HIV and hepatitis and shit like that, right? And so these safe smoking kits, what they have is a little rubber sort of smoking nub that goes over the end of the pipe. So that way people don't cut their lips, and you stop the spread of HIV and you stop the spread of fucking hepatitis and all this other bullshit, right? And that's what this is about. So it's not like the Biden administration is not going out buying a shitload of crack pipes and then airdropping them onto Chicago or something. That's not the case at all, right? So, what is this? Of course, we got some. Let's remove that. We get some bots in here. Anyway, so that's what this is all about, and this is what the right wing has lost their fucking mind over. This is the hill that they've decided to die on here. This is why they've decided to try to shut down the government if they don't get this program removed, which is bullshit. There we go. Got more of a sphincter mouth kind of thing going. Still looks a little silly. Kind of looks like the top of it doesn't really match the bottom, but fuck it. This is what we're going with. Right. We might need to make it a little wider. Maybe need to take this down like here a little bit, make it more like that. Because that's what I think it is. If it's like too skinny in the middle, that's messing me up. So maybe we'll do that. Well, maybe we'll just make it sort of go like he doesn't really have a neck. Right? Yeah, let's do that. Anyway, so let's see. Here's a Fox News story. Let's see. Here's a quote from a critic on social media, which is from a Fox News story, which I'm not going to open, but I will put down in the bottom for you guys. This is where I got this quote. Let me put it down here for you guys if you want to go read it for yourself later. In that story, here's a quote. It says, critics took to social media to mock Snopes for proving the Free Beacon's reporting on the crack pipes accurate, despite its mostly false rating. So basically this broke on a blog called the Free Beacon, which Free Beacon is sort of like a, right-wing, insane, libertarian kind of thing. It's funny how all of like the right-wing like media guys, they all have names like Free Republic and like, that kind of thing, and the fucking Paul Revere Times and shit like that. They all have these sort of like populist kind of like names that invoke like fucking George Washington and patriotism and shit, that kind of thing. And then, they report stories and advocate fucking like taking over the government and that. Right. It's funny how like the shit they actually say doesn't match their fucking rhetoric, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, so here's the actual quote from the link I just put. I don't understand why fact-checking sites twist themselves into rhetorical pretzels like this, wrote one critic, while another joked that one needed to read the fine print when it came to Snopes fact-checking, right? So, I will leave it up to you to look up what Snopes says about it. Snopes said, of course, this story is mostly false, and then it repeated that some of the money might go to safe smoking kits, which makes it mostly false because once again, narrative that Joe Biden is buying crack pipes for people is total fucking bullshit. That part is not false. Anyway, let's see, where were we here? Now, where does the racial equality component come in, right? Actually, before we get to that, I want to show you Tucker Carlson on this. So let's see here. Let's turn on my laptop window. First, let's make this super big. Nope, that's not what I want. Let's make that big. This is Tucker Carlson. Let's turn on my window. Let's make him small because he's a little Peasley ant down in the corner. This is his reporting. Remember, Tucker Carlson is not a reporter, so I guess this is his, I guess you would say, bullshitting about this story on his show. Let's see what Tucker Carlson's got to say.
Joe Biden, the president, has announced another piece of his highly promoted equity agenda. That's the government-wide effort to improve the lives of African Americans. You may recall that on his first day in office more than a year ago, the new president explained that equity will require determination.
Now, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, improve the lives of African Americans through... How does this have anything to do with African Americans? What, because African Americans smoke crack, right? Got to throw in a little bit of racism in there. I mean, like there's no white people on earth who smoke crack, you know? Didn't Mike Lindell smoke crack? You know, the My Pillow guy who's spending it basically going fucking bankrupt trying to overturn the election. Wasn't that guy a crack addict? You know? He's not black, is he? I don't know. Just funny how Tucker's got to throw in that, you know, just got to throw in a little bit of racism in there. Right? When it's not warranted whatsoever at all. He just can't help but show his true colors, folks. Anyway, let's move on.
And creativity. And this week he proved that's true. Joe Biden's latest idea is to pay black people to smoke more crack. Going forward, the administration will send at least $30 million in tax money to nonprofits and local governments so they can purchase, quote, safe smoking kits and supplies.
Okay. Pay black people to smoke crack. These are harm reduction programs. But you saw how he framed that there. If you only watched Tucker Carlson, you would think that the government was not just handing out free crack pipes to crack addicts, but that they were actually giving them money to go do it, right? Maybe we should. You know, I'm going to go Tucker Carlson one better. Maybe we should pay people to smoke crack. Maybe we should. Fuck it. Right? Maybe we should legalize crack and then, you know, tax the shit out of it so that if these people are going to smoke crack, maybe we'll get some money out of it. Maybe we should at least decriminalize crack like they have in, say, Portugal and, you know, several other countries, right? And that way, not only could we get tax dollars from it, but we could control access to it. No one's going to go to a dealer to buy crack if they can just get it at, you know, for free at a store, right? Maybe we could say, okay, here's your free crack, and now you got to join this rehab thing. Maybe we should pay for all that, right? I don't know, just throwing that out there. I mean, it seems to be working for lots of other countries on Earth where people actually give a shit about each other, unlike our country. You know, places like Sweden and Denmark and other places that have decriminalized drugs. You know, just maybe we ought to give that a shot. See how it turns out. I mean, isn't the definition of insanity doing the exact same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result? Well, how long are we going to throw people in jail for the crime of imbibing a substance and hope that it gives us a different result? How long are we going to go on with that, right? I don't know. Just throwing that out there, folks. Maybe that's completely impractical. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about because I kind of don't. I'm just a dude. Nobody should be like taking anything that I say as like fucking, you know, gospel, because I literally do not know what I'm talking about 90% of the time, as you've often seen how many times I need to be corrected about various things. Right? But, you know, just saying we should try it. I don't know. Let's see what Tucker's got to say. Let's continue on.
According to HHS, these kits will contain Joe Biden-approved pipes that will allow beneficiaries of the equity agenda to smoke crack cocaine.
That's a lie. That is a lie. The HSS, Homeland, the Health and Human Services is not supplying any kits at all. This is money that goes to state programs who may spend that money on smoking kits, may not. That's what it is. It's a grant. The grant, it doesn't mean that they actually like ship anything anywhere. The government is not buying crack pipes and then handing them out to people. The government is giving money to harm reduction programs run by the states. So, your state doesn't want people to smoke crack, then take it up with the state. Right? So he's lying. See, that what did he just say? That's a complete 100% total bullshit lie that now people are going to believe for the rest of their lives. It's propaganda, folks. It's fake news. Fake news.
As well as crystal meth. Some say it's about time. Soros-aligned NGOs have long complained that marginalized groups in this country don't have adequate access.
Soros-aligned. You got to throw George Soros in there again. We were just talking about him last time, weren't we? Didn't we just mention George Soros? Like, it seems like on Saturday when we were talking about, the trucker convoy. Supposedly George Soros was behind a lot of the, opposition to some of this shit too. Funny how George Soros just sort of pops up everywhere, isn't it? Every single time something happens that conservatives and Republicans don't like, they always got to throw in George Soros's name. I'm surprised somebody hasn't tried to kill George Soros yet. In fact, you know what? I'm going to look that up. I bet you $1,000,000 somebody probably has. Let me see here. Where's oh, you know what? I'm going to have to open a new browser. So, I'll look it up after. Let's look it up after this. Let's continue on.
To illegal narcotics or the tools to use them. With this new program, Joe Biden will finally close the crack gap. For too long in America, quality crack pipes have been the domain of rich white men like.
My God. My God. That is just the most okay. So for too long, only rich white people have been able to afford crack pipes. That is the dumbest and most racist fucking take I've ever heard on this. Like ever, right? That's complete. Do people actually believe this shit? I mean, the thing is, I know people do because then we see exactly what Tucker Carlson says on his show up in like a million fucking Twitter, tweets and comments and shit like that. And YouTube videos and everything, So I know people are watching it and I know people fucking believe it, right? Because it's like, or else they wouldn't be like parroting his fucking message. But I don't understand, how? How can somebody, what did he just say right there? What did he just say, right? That crack pipes have been the domain of rich white people, so in order to bring equality between the races in the United States, the Biden administration is giving free crack pipes to black people, right? Zero proof to any of that, but that's besides the point. Who would ever believe something so fucking ridiculous? Like, how? I don't understand. I mean, if I didn't know who Tucker Carlson was and I heard that, if I just read that somewhere on a thing, I would think that was like an Onion article. Like, I would like, what the fuck? Are you kidding? That's hilarious. Right? Like, it sounds like a parody, like something that you would see on Saturday Night Live, But these people think this shit is real. I mean, seriously, what the fuck? What the fuck has happened to my country? Like, conservatives, man. I know there's conservatives that watch my show here. There's a guy named 1911 Greater Than All. He's super conservative. And I know there's others because I'm always getting comments and shit about people telling me to fuck off all the time. I get them constantly, but that's what happens when you put yourself out there. That there's always going to be people that don't like you, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Say whatever you want. You can tell me to fuck off all day and all night. I don't care. But I know they watch it. And I gotta ask, what is it about this guy that you find so compelling? Why do people believe this fucking guy when he says shit like this? When he says things that are just not just blatantly untrue after 2.5 seconds of fucking like digging. Like, you don't even have to dig. You just have to look up the story of what he's talking about and read any given news article from 50 different sources that will tell you that what this guy's saying is bullshit. And it doesn't take a lot of investigation to uncover the lies that people like Tucker Carlson say. It's very, very easy. So what is it that why do people keep believing him when he says things that are just blatantly untrue like this? That's what I don't understand. That's what I don't get. That's what I don't understand. It's like, why do you people fucking believe him? Right? It's the most ridiculous shit that, like, I don't know. I don't know. Continuing on. There's only a few. Well, fuck. Well, there's about a minute. Let's see what else he says.
So much else. Here's the president's son, for example, smoking crack in bed at the Four Seasons.
Oh yeah, got to throw that in there. Got to throw in the Hunter Biden thing. You know, I think that the Republicans really thought that the Hunter Biden thing was going to be a much bigger, like, much more effective smear against Joe Biden than it actually ever was. This whole thing came out with, like, the Biden laptop, which was bullshit, and like pictures of him smoking crack like this right here, and all this other stuff. And I don't know. I guess they thought that they could get like the moral panic angle, and it like didn't happen. Like nobody gave a fuck, right? Which is good. People should not give a shit about Hunter Biden because Hunter Biden is not Joe Biden. Hunter Biden is the president's son, and it should not reflect upon the president what his son actually does. Maybe it says that Joe Biden was a shitty father, if anything, but is Hunter Biden in the government? Let's compare that to, say, Donald Trump's daughter, who he actually made an employee of the government. Donald Trump actually made his daughter Ivanka, a special like advisor to the president. And she had an office in the White House and all this other shit. Does Hunter Biden have an office in the White House? Nope. Does he have any power whatsoever in the government? Nope. So why did they think that it would be such a big deal? Because it smears him. It makes Joe Biden look bad. That's what it is. They couldn't find anything themselves on actual Joe Biden. They couldn't get any testimony from people saying that, he molests little girls or anything like that. They couldn't find any of that shit. Best thing that they could do was try to smear him through his son, and it just didn't work. And I'm actually very proud of my fellow Americans for not falling for that shit. They kind of did the same thing against Bill Clinton. If you remember, Bill Clinton had a fuck up brother who was like an alcoholic and shit, right? What was his name? Roger Clinton. Back in the 90s, and they tried to smear Bill Clinton by saying, Roger Clinton like got in a car accident and, got drunk and had a fight with a fucking raccoon or something, like some stupid ass story would come out about Roger Clinton about how he went to jail or how he got in a bar fight or how like a fucking, how like a family of possums and shit invaded his house or whatever because, they live in like fucking like the middle of nowhere in Arkansas or some shit. And that would like hit the news and they would try to like smear Bill Clinton with that and say, well, see, like their family, they're a bunch of hillbillies, blah, blah, blah. And it was just, it never worked. And I guess that's what they're trying to do here because they can't actually dig up any dirt on Joe Biden. I don't know. Kind of ridiculous. Moving on.
You'll notice the beautifully designed custom crack pipe. Its cooling bowl nestled in the high thread count Egyptian cotton sheets. When Hunter Biden smokes crack, he does it in style. But not everyone in this country is so fortunate. Try to toast some rock in West Baltimore sometime. You may have to make the pipe yourself from tin foil or a broken car antenna. Our inner cities are pipe deserts.
Now, of course, he's saying this in a mocking way, but that is one of the aspects of harm reduction, right? It's not good for you to smoke things out of a fucking tin can or whatever, right? I did that myself a couple of times. Smoked weed out of a fucking, like, soda can. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. It's bad for you, because chemicals and shit from the soda can paint can fuck you up, blah, 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 right? And you don't want to do that either because, you could cut your lips on, you could cut yourself on whatever you're making the fucking pipe out of. If you're making it out of foil, if you're like, if you have a broken pipe, you're cutting up a fucking tin can in order to make a pipe out of it, shit like that, you know, that can fuck you up too. And so Tucker Carlson is making fun of it, but he inadvertently had a good point there. You want to reduce injury. That's what these harm reduction programs are for, to reduce injury, to reduce the spread of disease. And one way that people spread around disease and injure themselves is by smoking out of like makeshift fucking pipes that are made out of garbage. So, I like that. I like how Tucker Carlson tried to insult it and actually made the point for us. Good job there, Tucker. It's like you almost can't help but extol the actual virtues of the programs, you know. If only you gave a shit about people and used your powers for good. You fucking asshole. Anyway, moving on.
Talk about the new Jim Crow. Bull Connor would be proud. Bull Connor didn't think black people deserved new crack pipes. Joe Biden's going to change that.
And you notice how he keeps saying black people? It's like, just got to make it, you got to throw that racism in there because obviously it's for black people since it's for crack. It's like, ridiculous. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. All right, enough of this asshole. Let's turn off fucking Tucker Carlson, right? Fucking God, this guy just, ugh. He has the most punchable face. Anyway, now why does he keep saying that though, right? Because this, why do they keep mentioning, racial equity and all that through crack pipe distribution and all that? Besides the straight out just racism angle, right? What the fuck are they talking about? Well, part of this program, along with pretty much everything that the Biden administration is doing, is being done because of an executive order, which is Executive Order 13985. And this executive order is advancing the racial equity and support for undeserved communities through the federal government executive order. So here is the link directly to that executive order if you guys want to read it later. Basically, what the executive order says here, right, is that going forward, any money that gets spent, any aid that goes out, is going to be done in such a way to where minorities are not going to be ignored, right? Because that's a big problem with the government, right? That's a big problem with just, government spending in general, is that, due to factors, societal factors and institutional racism and shit like that, more often than not, when aid programs go out from the federal government, they kind of sometimes bypass certain people of certain racial and ethnic backgrounds. That happens all the time. For example, there was a program that actually got removed from the Build Back Better program, which was supposed to address racial inequities when it came to farm subsidies, because something like 98% of all the farm subsidies over the last 60 years have gone to white people, right? And if you're black and you owned a farm, you didn't get any, Another example of that was the GI Bill, for a long time. It was, the Army basically advertised the GI Bill saying that, hey, come join the Army with us, and then we'll pay for your college afterwards. And for a long time, black people would join the Army, serve their time, get out, try to collect the GI Bill, and then not be eligible for one reason or another. And that happened over and over and over and over again. A lot of people don't really know that, that African American veterans kind of got screwed out of that, out of that benefit, where their white contemporaries got to go to college afterwards and get degrees and then, buy houses and kind of emerge from the 50s and the 60s and 70s with large amounts of generational wealth. That kind of bypassed the African American community. That's one of the reasons why, you know, the distribution of wealth is so unequal in this country, is because of things like that, institutional racism. So this was one of Joe Biden's executive orders saying, well, hey, every single program we're going to do now, we have to take this into account. You know, we have to take into the account the effects of institutional racism, and we're going to make sure that some of this money goes to minorities, goes to, black and brown people, right? Goes to women, right? Goes to LGBTQ people, right? We're going to make sure that and, not that the majority goes to them, but that it's distributed equally and it's easier for them to get it. And we're going to try to find places where institutional racism is stopping people from getting the aid they need, right? And, Tucker Carlson and the Fox News people and conservatives of all stripes have jumped up and down on that and are basically trying to say that it's like, Joe Biden is being racist towards white people because he's actually trying to, like, help minorities. And this is where the racial component comes from. This is why Tucker Carlson can get up there and say, see, he's buying crack pipes for black people. I mean, besides the straight up fucking racism, blatant, like, fucking bigoted racism that Tucker Carlson has and can't help but express. This is the actual thing. If you were to ask them to explain these comments, this is what he would point to, right? This is fake news in action, folks. The term fake news. It kind of took on, it was been around for a while, right? But it really took on a life of its own when Trump was running for president. And basically, any time that a story came out that Donald Trump didn't like about him, you know, something like, say, I don't know, him cheating on a porn star with cheating on his wife with a porn star while his wife was pregnant with their now 10-year-old son, and then getting his lawyer to try to pay her off with a campaign contribution. Whenever a story like that came out, Donald Trump would always say it's fake news. And fake news sort of became synonymous with basically any kind of anti-Trump story. And the meaning sort of became, fake news sort of became anything that became like anti-conservative, right? That's not what fake news really is. Fake news is when it's just like a lie, a straight up fucking bullshit lie, you know? Usually when it's a story that has, like, from that's just made up out of whole cloth that gets spread around social media, right? Now it seems like fake news has evolved and it's become, just like another propaganda tool, right? In the past, places like Fox and other conservative media, and, also liberal media as well, CNN and MSNBC, they're not immune to this. They often, report things that are not true. But often in the past, there was a little bit of pressure to have some journalistic integrity. If you remember, what was it, Dan Rather? Was it Dan Rather? The guy who, the person that reported on George W. Bush going AWOL. I think was that Dan Rather? I got to look that up. Let's see. Bush AWOL. Right. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it was it. So way, way years and years and years ago, if you guys remember, right? There was a story that came out about George W. Bush going AWOL because he was in the National Guard, right? And let me see here. This is memos allegedly from Kerry Gilley. Okay. Yeah, it was Dan Rather, right? So this got reported on, by CBS by Dan Rather. So Dan Rather was at that time like a 20-year veteran news anchor and all that shit, right? And it turned out some of the documents that kind of that they used in order to report on this story were fake, right? And the fallout from that was so severe that Dan Rather was forced to retire. Okay, this is 2006 is when this happened, right? It was, so that's what happened. 2006 is what, 13 years ago? That's what happened 13 years ago when a news organization, right, a major network, reported on a story that turned out to not be true. Okay. Time sure has changed. You know, is Tucker Carlson going to be forced to retire for spreading blatant lies like that? No. Is Sean Hannity going to be forced to retire? Is Laura Ingraham going to be forced to retire? Is anybody ever going to say or hold them accountable in any way for spreading these completely 100% fake lies? Well, I guess just lies. You can't really have a fake lie, right? Like, you know, is there going to be any accountability for them whatsoever? No, no, because we've gone past that point. Those days are over, right? The days when someone was when a journalist, was supposed to have integrity, when somebody could be basically pressured into, retiring for reporting things that were false. That's gone, over with, the end, right? We live in a post-truth America where it doesn't matter what the actual truth is. What matters is who controls the narrative. And that's what this is all about. That's what these fake stories, these fake news stories, this is the reason why they're doing it, is because the Republicans are trying to grab the narrative. Because we have the midterms coming up pretty soon, right? And they need to motivate people to go out to vote because a lot of their people didn't show up in 2020 because they thought the election was rigged. They kind of have to undo that. That was sort of their own problem too. That was that was Donald Trump basically fucking preemptively crying like a baby because he knew he was going to lose, saying the whole thing was fake and it was rigged. And they're very afraid now of Republicans not showing up to vote. So, how do conservatives motivate each other? They motivate each other through fear. And that's what this is. So now they're basically trying to gain back the narrative because they don't really have anything. They don't have a way in order to like criticize Joe Biden legitimately. Hang on, I gotta let my cat out. Out. Go on. Outside. Out, out, out. There you go. See, there are a lot of problems happening in the country right now, right? Lots of problems. The economy is still pretty fucked up, even though it's getting way better. People are getting jobs, shit like that, but it's still pretty fucked up. The pandemic is still going. We're just sort of like giving up on it now. I mean, we still have fucking like hundreds of people dying every fucking day, but lots of states are getting rid of masks, indoor mandates and shit like that, like that kind of thing, which I don't even fucking understand why. This is gonna backfire, but that's a subject for another stream. Lots of other stuff, we have this conflict in fucking like Russia and all that, and the Ukraine, on the verge of fucking another war, et cetera, and terrorism and like global fucking like warming and to fucking catastrophes and shit hitting the fan all over the place. Lots of bad stuff is happening out there, and the GOP and the Republican Party have absolutely nothing to bring to the table at all. They have no solutions for any of it. What Joe Biden is doing is what they would do. That's why they can't really criticize him on these things. They can't criticize him on the pandemic because he's doing what they would do, right? He basically is bringing everything back to normal, right? They stopped it with the unemployment. They're getting rid of the you know, getting rid of the eviction moratorium, right? They're cutting the tax breaks for people who had children, the child tax break and stuff that people had. They're stopping all of that shit. They're stopping aid of any kind, forcing people to get back to work, that kind of thing, right? This is exactly what Republicans would do. This is what they want, right? You know, and anything that he tried to do that they effectively reversed. The one thing he tried to do was to put a vaccine mandate for employers, and they got the Supreme Court to overturn that. So basically, Joe Biden said, "Fuck it, okay, you win." Right now, they can't, you know, so they can't effectively criticize him on that. Right? They can't really criticize him on, the military, Afghanistan. We just spent, another what, $700 billion this year or whatever on the military. The military is making their money, you know, and the whole ending Afghanistan thing was actually a deal set up by the Trump administration. So they can't really criticize him too hard on that, you know. So what do they have? You know, they have their usual stalwart things they always go to, immigration. So get ready to see another migrant caravan show up out of the fucking blue, right? I give that like a 90% chance of happening. Suddenly we're going to remember, oh yeah, there's all these there's another migrant caravan that just totally arrived just in time for the midterms. That's bullshit. And now they're just coming up with basically these types of ridiculous horseshit stories, you know, lobbing onto anything they can in order to make their people angry. And that's what it is. And as soon as the midterms are over, all this shit's gonna stop, and we're gonna, we'll forget all of this even happened. I mean, that's what happened last time. You remember the migrant caravans conveniently disappeared as soon as the election was over. Never heard anything about them ever again, right? It's it's manipulation, man. It's propaganda 101, you know. So this is why it's important. And we here on the we can kick back and laugh at these things and wonder how it happens and how anybody could be so fucking stupid to believe any of this stuff. But like I said, people believe it, and there will be people now. This bears repeating. There will be people for the rest of their lives who are now going to believe that Joe Biden spied on Donald Trump when he was president, when Trump was president, and who spent tax dollars on buying crack addicts new pipes. Guarantee it. The damage is already done, folks. Anyway, let's read some more comments and then we'll end this because we're getting close to 10:30 here. I think I already read most of them, right? Let me see here. Pony Throat. Just find another conflict to spend taxpayer money on. I think Sudan. Well, maybe. I heard today with the thing in Crimea, not Crimea, but the Ukraine, that Putin withdrew some of his troops or whatever. So it kind of looks like the Mexican standoff is starting to kind of simmer down over there. So maybe we won't have a war in the Ukraine, which would be nice. So I would really hate there to be World War III, and wake up tomorrow and it's like fucking the Terminator or whatever, nuclear bombs going off, and would really fucking hate that. I mean, I don't know. How am I going to get cell phone service then? Anyway, let's see. Dynacat, 2006 was 15 years ago. You fail math. Was it? Holy fuck, it was. Yeah, I'm not good at math. Pony Throat. When you are being corrected by a pink vor horse, you need to do more research. I know. Sorry, guys. Well, I'm not the smartest person on earth, and hey, I really do actually appreciate the correction. So, you know, I will never get offended when somebody corrects me when I'm wrong. Put it that way. I really appreciate it. So, thanks, guys. And I mean that seriously too. I'm not just like saying that. Like I seriously do mean it because you know I'm not like the most smartest or most informed or I'm not an authority on anything. You know, so I get shit wrong all the time. You know, I don't want to. I don't want people thinking that I'm like you know like an authority on any of this shit. It's like more than anything, I mean, these streams are really just for me to express my opinion and draw some stuff and chat about stuff. That's really what these streams are. And you know, I like to talk about things that I think are important. You know, like, and I mean, yeah, you know, there's lots of channels out there that will do things like talk about video games or they'll talk about, you know, um, like gender subjects and shit like that, and you know that kind of thing. And this is what I think is important. You know, I think these things, you know, politics stuff you hear in the news, stuff like that, it's important. It's important for people to be informed and you know to make decent decisions, right? You know, because why do you need to be informed? You need to be informed so that when it comes time to vote and when it comes time to support people and when it comes time to donate your time and your money, you know, if you want to be politically active, right, then you need to know what's going on in order to make an informed decision, right? Even if that decision is not to vote, even if that decision is stay home or not to donate money to somebody, you know, then you should know why. You know, why do you not support this guy? Because he did XYZ. And that's a perfectly legit thing, too. You know, not being active is also a form of activism, right? So, you know, it's all making the best choices with the best available information that you have. And a lot, you know, it's just I don't think most people get the right information. You know, at least I used to. I also think that there's a lot of polarization in our society. Obviously, there's a lot of, you know, and I'm not immune to this either. You know, I'm definitely polarized. I have a definite bias. I'm not trying to, you know, not trying to deny that either. Right. But, you know, I try my best to look at multiple sides of a story. You know, when any given event happens in the news, I try my best to investigate things. I actively go to conservative news sources, for example, and always look to see what they got to say. And it just fucking happens that 9 times out of 10, they're feeding a line of bullshit. They're saying straight up lies, like we saw today. You know, these are straight up lies, and it's like, well, I can't, you know, so I don't, I'm not saying that I'm unbiased, but I am saying that it seems to me that, you know, one side of the aisle is way more like guilty, I guess, of just straight up lying to people than others. So that's why I do the streams. You know, I do these streams because I want, you know, these are things that I think that are important and I would like to spread them around. So, but yeah, yeah, I will never pretend to be an expert on anything. So, anyway, kind of went off on a ramble there. What do we got here? Dinah Cat. They would still fire Dan Rather today. What's different is that he'd have no problem moving to another network. Well, he wouldn't get fired if he was on Fox and he was saying a bunch of right wing conservative shit. That's the difference, right? CBS would fire him, yes, because CBS still works under that old model, that old assumption that what they say has to be true. You know, Fox and OAN and you know One American Network and I guess that's OAN and you know Newsmax and like fucking The Blaze and all these other fuckers, they don't work under that model anymore. They wouldn't fire him if he was towing their line, and I guess that's the difference now. You know, um, so I don't know. Shouldn't be like that, man. It shouldn't be like that for anybody. And one of the things that they'll say is that they'll say like, well, Tucker Carlson, for example, is not a journalist. He's a, you know, commentator. So he shouldn't be held to the same standards as a journalist. That's bullshit. They'll say that, in fact, I think even one of their defenses, like in court, like the many times that Tucker Carlson has been sued for saying shit like this, and one of their defenses is that, he shouldn't be believed. Like no reasonable person would believe him. I'll have to look that up, but it's like he got sued once for basically spreading misinformation, and somebody tried to like sue him over it, because the shit that he said was damaging, and then the Fox News's defense was like, well, no rational person would fucking believe a word that he says, right? It shouldn't be like that, man. If you're gonna be on a news station, then you should be held to the same journalistic integrity as any given like journalist. You know what I mean? Like somebody like me, just a guy like fucking, you know, streaming from his bedroom and shit. I shouldn't be held at journalistic, standards, right? Because I'm not trying to be a journalist, and I'm not on a network like that has news in the title, and people are not getting their news from me, or you know what I'm saying, but they are from Fox News, and that's the problem. People, they can't tell the difference. They're like it's very little difference between their opinion shows and their news, and it's like that excuse. I don't buy that fucking excuse for a second. That it's like, oh, they're this is the opinion part. Fuck you, dude. Right? You should be held to that same standard for spreading lies in your opinion, in your opinion piece. Like, especially when they're super blatant, completely untrue lies like we just saw, you know. I don't know. Moving on here. Biden is a rhino. Yes. Yes. His policies, that if he were to have done his policies, in the past, he would have been considered Republican. And it's the Republicans who have moved so far right that it makes Joe Biden look like a centrist. That's definitely true. No war in Ukraine for now, but a nice market for the military industrial complex. Well, yes, I'm just happy that there isn't bombs going off. I mean, yeah, it sucks that this is like, one of the drivers of our economy is how much money we can spend on guns and bombs, but I don't know, man. One problem at a time. You know what I mean? It's like we'll address that later. Let's worry about actual fucking bombs being dropped on people for now. So, I mean, the thing is, I didn't really think that there would be a war in the Ukraine to begin with. You know, I don't think that they would have like if the Russia was going to invade, like I think they would have done it early on, like without much warning. You know how they when they kind of and when they seized Crimea, right? And when they invaded Georgia, like they just did it and it was quick. Like here they built up the troops and they put them on the border and all this stuff, and they were like, "Oh, we're not going to invade," and "Oh, well, you better give us what we want," or whatever, blah blah blah. And it seemed more like this time, because their goal is to stop the western expansion or the eastern expansion of NATO, excuse me. Right. Like, I mean, that's their public goal. I think it also has to do with extending Russian sphere of influence into Western Europe. Right. But that was their official goal, is they want to stop eastern expansion of NATO. They don't want, the Ukraine to join NATO essentially. And yeah, well, kind of seems like they were using this as a negotiating tactic, is what it seems like to me. You know, we might invade if we don't get what we want, or maybe it was kind of a show of strength, like, hey, we mean business, kind of thing. Like, you know, we mean it this time. Like, better not fucking like join NATO. Like, I mean, that's what it seems like to me. It seems like, if they wanted to actually invade, they probably could have done it 10 times already, and it would have already happened, and we probably wouldn't have heard about it until the shit was like already underway. So I don't know. Uh, okay, guys, gotta end this because it's 10:30 and it is I have to work in the morning. Let's see. That looks a little bit better. It's still a little lopsided, but it's a demon, so who cares? Maybe I might make this go in a little more so that it's a little more symmetrical. But that's better. That's better than the weird fucking like tentacle mouth thing that we had last time. I just wasn't digging that. That whole tentacles going in every direction just didn't look right to me. This still looks a little funky. Might need to like refine this a little bit, but I think we're getting there. So let me save this thing before it's too late. Anyway, guys, I need to do my usual end of the stream speech here. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I know that everybody says that, but it actually works. Whenever I say it, I notice people actually do like and subscribe. So please do that. And then let me see here. Let me just pull up all of my crap here. Give me 1 second. UCD videos. How come this is not being found? Oh, wait. Oh, you know what it is? I need to do... There we go. Got that. And then I also had a Patreon, which I have not been promoting recently. I should really promote that. Anyway, I do have a Patreon. I'll put it down in the thing if you want to join my Patreon. You know, I'll put a link to it after the video. But I have a, let's see. First off, let me turn on my window. I have a webcomic. If you want to see my webcomic, it has ninjas and monsters and people getting kicked in the face. Shit like that. This is hawanja.com. Fun for the whole stupid family. I have a DeviantArt gallery. If you want to see my, you know, artwork and stuff, right? This is me on DeviantArt. Here's a recent one that I just did. This sort of like, you know, barbarian kind of rhino person. I've been on this sort of like animal-human hybrid kick recently in my artwork. So if you want to check out my DeviantArt, it's down there. I'll put all the links to the thing after this. Here is my SD shop. Oh, wait a minute. I actually need to go to the right thing here. Well, anyway, this is my other YouTube channel. It is UCD videos, right? And let me see here. Let me go to my SD shop also. Nope, I have to go here. I got to go down to that. And there we go. This is my SD shop. So if you guys want to give me money and, you know, support the channel, you can. Oh, I got a message. Cool. You can buy something from my SD shop here. I sell scrolls and prints and shit like that. And then this is my other YouTube channel where I talk about video games and, you know, toys. That kind of thing. I'll put links to all of these down in the chat right after this. So anyway, really appreciate you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you all so much for joining me. Really appreciate that. Let me just put some links down here. Thank you, Pony Throat. Great to see you again. I really appreciate it, you know, coming and all that. And thanks for being so active, you know. Dynacat loves me. Awesome to see you as always, man. Really appreciate that. Who else joined? We have you. I think it was just you two guys, right? Yeah, I think you guys made all the comments. We just had all of these. We got all these bots in here. But anyway, you know, that's Wednesday night. What the hell? What you gonna do? Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And anybody else who joined as well. I will see you all this next Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Daylight Time. Everybody have a good time. Adios. I'm out of here.